Francesca. Oh, we're recording now. There we go. What an amazing representatives. And they really are a team. You know, Francesca doesn't run things like a higher up. Nada and Francesca are a team that represents this district, represents the people of Wisconsin. And State Representative Francesca Hong is on her way. And she'll be our first keynote speaker. We have a number of amazing speakers. And so what I wanted to just say is that the documents that we've passed around and spread around the room, one of them being on one side, the 47 groups that have endorsed this gathering, on the other side, the solidarity statement that we hope you'll sign on to or help us modify and change. There's the survey that Charlie put together that'll help us create a database of things, of what people are interested in. All of these forms will be sitting up in this kind of dead zone up here where you can't get in. We'll put these flyers up here. There's also flyers from groups. Some of our partners brought literature and they're over there, as well as the beautiful posters that Charlie printed up that highlight our speakers and our panelists. So you can read about them there if you didn't get one of these. We're asking you not to take the program guide home. We've printed up about 40 or 50 of these, and we'll print up maybe some more later, but we'd like to not kill so many trees for things that people might just throw away when they take them home. So please share these or go over and read them over there. And yes, the need cards will be up here on this front area as well as, and you can have these. We printed up plenty of these, one sheet, 2-page, both sides, the complete schedule, which tells me, let's see, 10 o'clock, it's a little after 10. That means State Representative Francesca Hong. Now, there's a lot of information about Francesca Hong. She's a champion for economic justice and all kinds of things. Ending war, clean environment. I mean, the list goes on and on. You can read more about her here, and very shortly, she'll be walking through that door. You're not in here yet, are you, Representative Hong? No, she's coming, running a little bit late, but she'll be here. Tainetta, did you want to say something? Huh? Oh, yeah, do you need to change the program? Oh, no, we're not behind time. We are moments behind time. We're not that tight, but, oh, so yes, I was saying earlier, and I get distracted. I'm a little bit neurodivergent, so bear with me. But we need to get out of this Capitol to make sure that Representative Hong and Nada stay in good graces with the Capitol. They're basically co-hosting this with us, and we need to be out of the Capitol, doors closed, all of our things, no lingering in the Capitol at 3:55. So if you're around with us today at 3:40, we're going to be all hands on deck. Now, we don't have to take everything out of this room. The food, our papers, all things can stay in this room. We've got this room all weekend. But our coats and our persons have to be out by 4 o'clock or 3:55. The Capitol closes at 4 o'clock, and we promised we would make sure we got everybody out here. So please help us with that. And I'll just say while we're waiting that if people want to carpool, we could do there's all these little turnaround loops at the 4 sides of the Capitol. And at the Wisconsin side, Wisconsin Avenue, might be a place where people that have room in their car and are driving over to the crossing at 4 o'clock or whatever, could come up and pick people up. And if you need a ride, you could go down to the Wisconsin, remember that's the state we're in, the Wisconsin entrance, and people can pick you up there maybe, and then bring you back if your car is in a ramp near here. I know that this isn't the greatest place for parking in the world, and I apologize for that. It's also very tight quarters, but we did get to be here for free. So I'm going to let you get back to talking amongst yourself, and in just a minute, I'll interrupt you again and introduce State Representative Francesca Hong. So please enjoy each other for a few more minutes. an amazing organizer. I met her back in 2020 when we were all working really hard to make sure that the elections went, that people turned out. And it's been a great friendship and comradeship ever since. But anyway, thank you, Tainetta. And you know, my new friend, Minoa Ade from the Lakota Nation has volunteered to come up and share some time with an indigenous song. And I'll hold the microphone for you.
Sure. Buju, Mino de Nindigenous. Ojawa Benesikwa, Ajinakazo. Ni Biju do dem, Odawa Azaeganeng Unjimba. Nindakino Amagewikwe. So I just want to say my name is Goodheart. This is my wife, Lisa Dodge. I have other water protectors if they want to come up and join us on the stage to be recognized. We're representing the Native community and the evolution of the opportunities to evolve, change, and be part and to do our part in making this a better world for all of us to live in. Unity is the reason for us to be here with this drum. This drum represents a family, and together with this family, we have always survived. So when we use this drum, we sing these songs, we invite a certain energy, and we want to welcome that into this event so that you guys can come together. So we resurrected the ceremonies of the people, and the ceremonies when we learned how to live in peace and harmony with respect and love for one another. What do those things really mean? A self-awareness that you have to have about yourself to know that when you say something, you're confident in what you're doing. So this is the thing we want to teach our children. Diversity is what makes this universe possible. But we always have to be the best we can be. The Dakotas, they say, Mitaki opeg hana wachinyape, which means always do your very best. When you do your very best, everybody benefits from that. So we're going to come together, bring our minds together, our hearts together, and bless this place for the arrival of some of our other guests. So I just want to take that much and say that much. I also mentions Nikanigo Amagewikwe. That means I get my teachings from Mother Earth. And I don't want to let the ladies go unrepresented. They represent the water. We're going to let the water speak to us for just a couple of minutes since we have this time. And like you said, we're going to make a lot of mistakes. So we do big ceremonies, and there's a lot of responsibility. Don't live in scarcity. There's always enough. There's always enough. Mother Earth is abundant in everything. We must remember that. Scarcity doesn't belong any place, so we must heal from the past so we can be here. Heal. Because there's only one way, and that's forward. That's it. That's all I want to say. Oh.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, I know that. We Blue Star Woman.
Hi, my name is Tape Jutawe Chakbewi, Her Star Medicine Woman, enrolled member of the Crow Creek Sioux Tribe in South Dakota, Dakota Excelled. And just like to say, it's really beautiful to be here with all of you guys today in solidarity and unity and honor and honoring the drum this way. Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to sing a healing song. You guys might know it. Robbie Robertson made it famous on one of his albums. And we got a chance to sing it for Prince after he had passed, though, at Sabathany in front of a sea of black faces. Hope. And the song goes like this. You guys can sing along where you can. Wani wachiero ate omake ayo. Wani wachiero ate omake ayo. Wani wachielo ate o maki ayo yano ene. Ate anishiu yano ene ua. Unchea che ra. Wani wachielo ate o maki ayo. Wani wachielo ate o maki ayo. Wani wachielo ate no ene you are. Which on 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 Shankuki Alana no Achi no ene. Which on 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 Shankuki Alana no Achi no ene you are. Unche balayo, unche malayo, unche malayo, unche malayo, unche malayo, wani wachi no ene you are. Wanka kankaya, unche malayo. Unche malayo, unche malayo, unche malayo, wani wachi no ene you are. Which on 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 Shankuki Alana no Achi no ene. Which on which on which on which on which on Shankuki Alana no Achi no ene you are. Yahweh no no Yahweh no Yahweh no Yahweh no Yahweh no Yahweh no when I away oh, woke it up. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everybody. Pray for the water. Pray for the future of humanity. There's three things that you need to know before you cross over to the next life. Is that who am I? Where did I come from? For what purpose was I placed? For what purpose did you come to the land of living? That's your challenge. For what purpose did I come to the land of living things? And then what do you expect to get out of life? So the Ojibwe say, Tamates, you win. That's to live a good life. The hardest challenge you will have is to be a good-hearted person and to be peaceful. So the Dakota say, Tayan Manipo, and Takiopi. Walk in wellness. Be good.
Chimigwich. So I have had, I'm not even going to say anything about that. I'm not going to say a word about how much that touched us because I know that it would just be redundant for what you're all feeling. I can feel it. You all know that that was a gift that we will all hold in our lives for many years. I mentioned that I've had the privilege of hosting some Indigenous relatives in my home. And I've also been working to try to build some relationships with Indigenous peoples around the state. And Minode, you're one of my newest Indigenous friends. And I'm so grateful that you came and brought your drum and came up with that beautiful idea. But the thing I want to get back to is the story that I was talking with Nokomis, someone you'll hear on a panel later on, who is staying with me. Nokomis, are you in the room? Okay. And I was telling her that I really wanted to open this up in a good way with Indigenous voices centered. And I've been working to try to do that, but it kind of fell through for me. And she said, well, we'll pray on it. And I think, Nokomis, your prayers worked. I think Minode, you gave us the opening that we needed. And miigwech to all of the people from AIM and from other Indigenous, from RISE, and other Indigenous groups that have shown up. You've traveled a long way to be here. You belong here, of course. This is sacred Ho-Chunk land. And this is also the new people are rising up, and we need your voices. We need your wisdom. We need your leadership. So please don't stand on the periphery. If you can work your way in and be fully a part, make room for people. We want to make sure everybody's comfortable. And as I mentioned, we wouldn't be here today without the beautiful support. And I shared with you the gratitude that I feel for State Representative Francesca Hong. I'm sure she feels bad that she was a little late, but we have no idea. We have no idea what she juggles to represent us the way she does. We have no idea. She's a mother. She's a business owner. She's an organizer and a champion. And I can't say enough of gratitude for what Representative Hong and her chief of staff Nada do for our district and for the state of Wisconsin. And this room, this conference would not have happened without your loving support. So it is and please read more about Representative Hong on our posters and our program guides, but I'm going to turn it over to her. And thank you for being our first keynote today. Give a big hand for State Representative Francesca Hong.
Thank you so much, Tim. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing space. I'm looking out at this really beautiful, multi-generational, multi-faith, multiracial group. I don't often get to do that here in the Capitol. And I'm coming here with some restlessness and anxiety that I was so late, but I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I'm very, very grateful for you all for accepting me as I am this morning. When I looked at the prompt, what Tim wanted me to talk about today, where do we go from here? I think it's incredibly important for all of us to think about how we got here. And for me, as I've been more entrenched in political spaces, both on the electoral politics side and here in the policymaking side in the building, something keeps constantly coming up. And I am reminded that it is, I know what it is. It's that we have perpetually left people behind and made folks feel abandoned year after year after year after year.
Yeah, I know what that is.
And I kind of think back to the Democratic Party and all of the literature and analysis that's out there about how could have what happened in 2016 happened, and how could have what happened in 2024 November happened. And a lot, folks who are way smarter than me have written article on article and books. But I think ultimately it's that we are not doing what I'm going to ask you right now, which is asking you a big question. How are you doing? How are you doing in this moment? I've never really gotten that question from folks who have asked it with sincerity, with meaning. And I think it's that Democrat, Republican, Independent, Socialist, however you identify politically, however you identify personally, we are not actually incorporating feeling or vulnerability and using that as power, even though it is one of the most powerful ways to organize. Democrats over and over again, both with elitism and a capitulation to corporate greed and corporate power and corporate politics, have left working people feeling like they've been left behind over and over again. And when you feel like your politicians don't care about you, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, when you feel like people in your community are abandoning you, those are deep scars that are very, very difficult to overcome and to heal, especially when you feel more alone. And so working families who are struggling, it's hard for them, and I don't blame them at all for not, why should I care about people in power who don't care about me? And so the more we can incorporate care back into our organizing, I think that's one of the big steps that we need to take or prioritize in order to build, rebuild, then build again a future that includes all of us. Because we're living through a crisis of deep apathy, and it was on full display when over 90 million of the 244 million eligible voters did not go vote. And I sympathize, I empathize, because I know when I'm being trained on how to knock doors and get people involved, never are we told, ask them what they care about, what they fear. Ask to see if what's going on in their neighborhood. We don't know how to make these connections of care. We haven't been conditioned to. But as we've seen income inequality grow exponentially over the last 10 to 15 years, and more people realizing that we are not naming the one opposition, which is corporate greed and the billionaire class that would rather make sure that they are taxing the poor instead of realizing that they are getting corporate benefits and corporate welfare for themselves. And so the weight of the crisis and the outcomes of these economic disparities continues to divide our communities. And so going back to how incredibly moved and how much happier I feel now just being in this room, knowing that it's possible for us to enhance and amplify our movement I mean, look around us right now and ask yourself, who did I check in with today in this room? Because the system right now, it wants us to feel small and that we don't matter. And when we feel like our potential and our dreams, we're not able to achieve them, that's when the fascists win. That's when authoritarian rules. And I'm not here to tell you to, about how to process if you're not feeling hope right now, if you're not feeling that glow. I know a lot of days I just feel really fucking numb. I'm here to tell you that those emotions are very valid. And I think one of the reasons we struggle, especially once you're a public official or a more public organizer and you start building a platform for yourselves, is that we grow into this really unhealthy habit of projecting our values and our views and our emotions onto others, as opposed to actively listening and validating what people's fear, regardless, or opinions, regardless of how they got to them, how they're doing. And when we don't actively listen, when we don't validate the real struggles of working people, when we know that the way our system works is to continue to demonize the poor and weaponize the impoverished, that's somehow the only way that the rest of us could potentially survive, let alone thrive. And we have to reject that fully and vehemently all the time. So I want to thank you, each of you, before I get into a little bit more about what may come next. I just want to make sure that you all feel deep, deep gratitude for yourself and good about yourself for showing up here today, taking your weekend to figure out how to build a community that cares and how to build the small revolutions that we are going to need to take down the corporate greed that continues to just absolutely infect our communities. And when I think about the fight for peace, justice, democracy, and sustainability, it's not a lofty or abstract battle. It's inextricably tied to the fight for Palestinian liberation. And so when I think about, we're not just talking about, we are living that movement right now, as incredibly painful and suffocating as it is. Last spring, when I had the privilege of being a part of the uninstructed and uncommitted movement, I saw, I lived, I got to feel what a pro-democracy, pro-justice, pro-climate, pro-peace movement looked like. That it was being led by young Palestinians, their allies, their communities, the people who believed in them, to so swiftly and quickly create this beautiful campaign that was not an act of, that was not an anti-democratic act, but it was, again, this one of the most democratic acts that I've ever seen and actions that I've ever seen. Here in Wisconsin, we mobilized over 48,000 uninstructed voters. And what I think people miss so much, because the headlines just talked about this is taking away votes and this is going to lead to whoever going. No, we mobilized 48,000 people of all different generations, faiths, ethnicities, all throughout different parts of Wisconsin, right? From Western Wisconsin, Superior. So I don't know what could be more democratic than having people from all different faiths and backgrounds and zip codes know that this was not only the right thing to do, but they had an opportunity to actually educate people through action without being out here saying, it's not that. We were finally talking about what to vote for, that this was voting for democracy. This was for voting for justice. This was for voting for peace. Because if you look at a lot of the articles that came out after the election of 24, a lot of what the apathetic voters are saying is, you're not giving me anything to vote for. The candidates are the same. The Democratic Party, and actually, like, this is difficult for me, but this last administration actually did some incredibly progressive acts in a remarkably short amount of time. So when I get accused of not supporting the current administration, that's not it. This is your house, this Capitol. That White House is also my house. Those are my tax dollars, and I have a right to talk about what I want done with them. But I also recognize that the people who are out here messaging the accomplishments of the Inflation Reduction Act and these big policy changes that are incredibly difficult to implement, both at the city and local levels, as well as the federal level, we don't have the right people talking about it because we have not built trust with working people who are going to be able to message the fact that, yes, the current administration has actually done some good, and this is why we can actually work towards doing more good. But instead, we are focusing on dividing one another over purity of values and morals, instead of recognizing that we can make those morals and values more pure when we have more of us actually living it. So that's what I felt when I experienced and was a part of Uninstructed and Uncommitted. And that's what 700,000 other young people across the country who showed up for a spring primary that often doesn't have high voter turnout were trying to say. And that's also part of keeping democracy strong, is holding your elected officials accountable. That includes me. That includes folks at your city and state and county levels. And what does holding them accountable mean? Is that oftentimes the bureaucracy stifles change when it comes to policy, but it can be moved and things can be felt and be done in a more urgent way when we've got action in numbers that is not just organizing on the ground, but taking up spaces in media, taking up spaces in both private and public institutions. Because right now, the other big attack is destroying one of our last remaining public institutions in the country, and that's our public schools. And so again, education is such a big part of democracy, and why I keep bringing this back to Palestinian liberation, because it was in that movement that I felt like it was actually more possible to achieve justice, peace, sustainability, and democracy was in mass actions like that. But it's not just mass actions that it's going to take. So where do we go for here? Amidst a genocide, amidst authoritarianism, amidst the fact that many of those that we thought were in our community and cared have now gotten lost because they have also felt left behind. I want us to make sure that we are very mindful to not demonize those who were acting in response to continual trauma of income inequality. I do not want us to demonize those who may have voted for a different politician or candidate than you did. But I understand that, the whole kumbaya thing is not always possible. So I encourage folks to double down on care. And what does a care economy look like? What does a care community look like? What does care safety look like? And I'm trying to still figure that out. Policy-wise, we're working on a care economy that works for everyone when we invest fully in caregiving. We're caregivers. These are jobs that cannot be automated. These are people who are caring for some of our most vulnerable, the disabled, the elderly. They are paid nowhere near living wages. When I think about care, I think about childcare and those who are educating and nurturing our youngest. I think about paid leave. Why is it that any of us shouldn't have to choose between going to our job, caring for a loved one, going to a job, and taking care of ourselves? Or protecting someone who may not be in a safe situation, right? We can have paid family medical leave for all. The bills have been introduced in this building. Yes, Robin Voss and his cronies are never going to stop hoarding that power, but we're never going to stop introducing the bills that let us know that a world where we all care about one another and we can all achieve economic security is possible. We don't stop introducing those bills. So think about what care looks like for you and just your neighbor. Do you know your neighbor? Have you checked in on them? What does care look like on a local government level? Are your elected officials on council talking about housing for all, about abolishing homelessness? Are they talking about how to ensure that, we fix lead pipes and our schools are funded and our educators are respected? Because they don't want us to be talking about the intricate policy issues as well. But we can't retreat. We can't be silenced when it comes to policy, when it comes to how we organize, how we have these micro revolutions in each of our communities to add up to a big one where we can achieve a world that is rooted in justice, peace, democracy, and sustainability. But we're also exhausted. And I know many of you have been fighting.
From what? What have
years
you done,
on
Conch?
years from organizing and getting people to care and show up. Anything from a letter writing campaign to going to testify at a hearing or showing up at an action in the streets or making sure that people are nourished. I look around and how important was it? Yes, it's more attractive to come to an event if there's food, but I also think there is always a beautiful act in sharing a meal together. And that those types of micro connection and interactions are even more important now than ever, because again, they don't want us to have these pathways to build connection so that we can prevent people from feeling behind and feeling left behind and abandoned, which was obviously incredibly exacerbated by COVID. But these small connections matter. Don't take them for granted or think that they don't mean anything, because they absolutely do. But going back to the exhaustion part, and remember that rest is resistance. There's a quote from that my dear friend Angela Lang told me about the other day, and I carry it with me, as I think many of you carry a lot of weight from just the despair and crises that we're living through. And it's called, and it states, it's the parable of the choir. A choir can sing a beautiful note, impossibly long, because singers can drop out to breathe as necessary, and the note goes on. I will remind you that our rest is resistance, and there's someone else in the choir who is holding that note for you if you need to take a breath. So a lot of the antidote to all of this is care. It's not the only one, but it's one I'd like all of us to keep at the forefront. It's also a commitment to radical welcoming, to combat the radical divisiveness and just the toxicity and hatred. What does radical welcoming look like for you, especially when we're in a time where the current administration is hell-bent on ensuring that they will displace and distract us from the power hoarding and the destruction of this world that they are committed by protecting their wealth over people? And you're going to hear a lot of rhetoric, and your neighbors are going to hear a lot of hateful rhetoric about who belongs and who doesn't. So that's why it's more important right now that we thinking about what does radical welcoming look like for my community and beyond. So I hope we never waver in our commitment to this fight for liberation. I hope we don't forget, and we always remember, that the fight for every person whose life has been devalued by this system of oppression, those are who we are fighting for in this fight against fascism. And that as these forces continue to seek to destroy our democracy, we continue to build a legacy of those who come behind us who will always fight for it and protect it. I hope we never stop caring for one another. And I hope when we meet again in the future, or those who come after us meet in the future. Maybe it may, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It could even be a future after that.
Vomit,
That the
bitch.
world will be different, and that the lives of Palestinians will be valued,
No, they won't.
and every oppressed person's life will be valued as much as everyone else's. And I hope we stay together in this fight. Thank you.
It's a fucking shit.
Thank you, Representative Hong. Do you have time for a few questions? Awesome. If people have questions. Actually, we have another mic, I believe, over here, so I can move this around. If anyone has a question for Representative Hong, wasn't that an amazing address?
Representative Hong, can you tell us where you are in, or where the bill for the 21st Century Economic Bill of Rights was before? It's probably lampooned by now, but could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, the Economic Justice Bill of Rights. It's been introduced now 2 sessions in a row. That is the 10 core principles in ensuring that all Wisconsinites and all people have a pathway to economic security, the right to a union and to collectively bargain, the right to a high quality public education, the right to high quality childcare, the right for free health care, the right to live in a world with clean water and clean air. We will reintroduce the Economic Justice Bill of Rights this year, and I will definitely let you know as we get closer to that release date, so you can all join me in the assembly parlor, and we can stand in front of those seats where all those policymakers are allegedly doing their job, and we can demand better. So yes, definitely look out for our Economic Justice Bill of Rights.
Anybody else?
And I'm happy to answer everything from cooking to hot takes on Democrats.
Is it Jim?
Thank you for bringing up the uninstructed delegation movement. Proud to be part of that movement. That movement occurred because people didn't want to vote for people supporting genocide. If the Democratic Party continues to offer us candidates that have supported genocide or will not stand up against Israel's genocide and continue to arm Israel, what in the Democratic Party should we do to give us different candidates?
I think we have to always work, like I like to think about, and I like to think about this as a mosaic, right? Like there are constantly different shapes that we are adding into the big old mural, and you're going to see things kind of in different ways, but it's always something in the middle working out, concentric circles, if you will. And the reason I think about it that way is that what's in close proximity to us, our closest elected officials, your neighborhood board, your city council or town board, your county, your state. Those are where we have to start investing heavily in providing resources to candidates who share our values and are willing to know that political power and political capital is there to be burned. So think about who has political networks in your community. Start figuring out who we can get to empower and tell them and encourage them to run for office. It took me, it's easier for me to talk about this because I wasn't supposed to be here. I was really happy cooking every day in my restaurant and taking care of my son and doing organizing with the Culinary Ladies Collective. But COVID happened. 9 different people asked me, and I think I came in at a moment where folks were really ready for change and a working class voice that would be unapologetic and swore a lot. We have to start locally in investing in candidates. We have to make sure that they not only feel supported with the financial resources, because the reality is we're not close to taking money out of politics right now, but we have collectively more numbers, right? So the math is mathing. If we have more of us with our small dollar donors figuring out ways to still support a candidate who may not have access to wealthier networks. And AOC is a prime example. I'm also a terrible fundraiser, but I have people who are willing to give $2.33 a month, $7 a month, because those are the tip minimum wage and the sub minimum wage, the tip minimum wage and the minimum wage. And you figure out a way to bring people together to rally for a cause, not necessarily just the candidate. So I encourage folks to make sure that we are putting up candidates who share our values. I think right now the Democratic Party is absolutely going through a reckoning nationally. I think here in the state, we have an opportunity to make the party more reflective of the people and start building and repairing relationships with low income, no income, and working class folks to let them know what we are fighting for. And I think we have to be abundantly clear that we are the party, we are the people, right? We are not just the party, we are the people that is going to be holding corporate greed accountable. We are the people who are going to make sure our neighbors have healthcare. We're the people that are going to be fighting for liberation for everyone. I mean, it's easy for me to be up here and talk about this, obviously, but what's happening on the ground in local communities where I see mutual networks being uplifted, where I see folks running for school board or council who are coming in with backgrounds of actually helping and supporting people. I'm excited about a couple of races here and locally in Madison, and I think across the state. And the thing is, the right and even the centrists are going to be putting up just warm bodies who are going to be mouthpieces for their corporate agenda. We have to match that energy, but come fighting even harder. And we have to encourage the folks who are already helping people in their community, if they're willing, and if we give them additional courage to the courage they already have, to run for office. It's going to take a while to reorganize the two-party system, and I don't think that it's going to remain. It's just a matter of how soon can we get it to change.
I think we have time for one more question. I'm
Sorry,
looking
that was
at
a
my
long-winded answer. I should
friend here, Jill, badass grandma.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for coming and for speaking on behalf of literally all of us. And the one thing that a lot of us are here for is for the planet and for the water. And a lot of water protectors have come a long way. We've been criminalized in the process of protecting the water. We've been jailed. We've been beaten. We've been injured. I myself have written 4 letters over 3 years that I sent to every one of the 134 legislators and to the governor, demanding that you end your silence about Canadian Enbridge, an international oil cartel, an eco-terrorist. They are eco-terrorists. And Governor Evers, I initiated the Never Michaels campaign so that Michaels would not be sitting in this office, because I believe Tony Evers would take care of our water, our sacred water, and the Great Lakes. And he has remained in coward silence. And I want answers. I'm here. I came from California. I moved to California and came back here because of this conference to say, I've had enough of begging. We've had enough of begging. Protecting the planet and protecting the water is not our job. That is the job of everybody in this office, all the EPA, the DNR, everybody. And instead, they have all bent over to Enbridge, and they are holding us hostage. When you invade a country, when you occupy that country, when you are told to leave and you refuse to, what do you call that? A foreign country, Canada, is holding us hostage with the 1977 treaty, which says they have the absolute right to come through our land and water unobstructed with the hydrocarbons of their choice. That's forevermore if it is not revoked, which means we can never be fossil free. So when any politician talks about wanting to move towards green energy, it's nonsense. It's not going to happen as long as that treaty is in place. And I brought that up to all 134 legislators. I did not get one response over 3 years. So I need to know what's going to happen because it has been approved to add 41 new miles to a 71-year-old pipeline actively rotting beneath the Great Lakes and ready to rupture at the Bad River Reservation. And everybody in this building is ignoring that. And I appreciate you being here. And if you have any answers for me, I would be most grateful. Thank you.
Very grateful for sharing your knowledge and for your advocacy. Unfortunately, there are different levels of government that I feel like are working together to basically say it's on you, and they're punting the issue back and forth. I don't have more information right now, but I can certainly follow up with the governor's office when we come back into the office on Monday.
Thank you, Representative Hong. Let's give her another big hand. And
I will leave my business cards here. You're welcome to email Netta and I. We'll do our best to get back to you within the week.
beautiful. And you can put those on. We're putting literature on this front table there. All right, we're going to take a little break and we've got more. So take about 5 minutes so we can stay on schedule, stretch, meet your neighbor. And thank you all so much for being the kind of audience that's really staying on task and helping people listen.